This club's about winning trophies. I'm inexperienced in a lot of those things.
3-0. Can you believe it?
Almost lost the cup and you win it. The new European champions, the treble, the dream come true for you.
Oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Football, bloody hell. But they never give in. And that's the winner.
Welcome to the American Red Devils podcast. I'm John.
I'm Alex.
And we are bringing you the best Manchester United news from this side of the pond.
Ooh, sir, how you doing? How you doing? Happy Sunday to you. Another Sunday in lockdown, in quarantine, football embargo. No Premier League in sight, but we went back to the archives not too far. Probably the last game at Old Trafford in front of fans for a long time. But a hell of a match, wasn't it?
A packed house at Old Trafford, a Manchester derby. You know, almost a must-win for Manchester United. The win taking us to 5th place in the table. I mean, you had a Gallo FC, Scotty McSauce, the 96th minute killer. Manchester United do the double over City in the derby. Love that. I mean, the emotions were high, sir. I mean, this was just the second to last game for United that we watched this season. And, you know, what a high and, you know, what a low quarantine's been.
I know. I almost don't want to talk about what came after, but this game going into it, it was a must-win, like you said. We were 6 points out with a game in hand against Chelsea scum. Had to win it at home. First time, I think, other than one other manager, that Ole would get 3 wins against Pep in a season. So good territory for him to be in, but huge win for us. Great performance, to be honest. You rewatch this game, and seldomly United is this much in control when they nick a win against Manchester City. So I really think, like, you know, they had a lot of the possession, but you look at the chances, United had the better ones. If Martial and Dan James could learn how to square a ball, it would have been 3-4-0, I think.
Yeah, and a sound defensive performance for Manchester United as well. I mean, like, there was a little bit, Ole had to change it up there on the left-hand side, but when we did figure it out and we got McSauce in the middle of the park, we bossed Manchester City, beat them at their own game. Clearly the back five isn't standard for Manchester United, but just an all-around great win, great performance. And, you know, our last EPL match ends on such a high, 5th place at 45 points, 3 behind Chelsea. I mean, sir, everything to play for. And then we all know what happened next. Lask, no fans. And then here we are hanging out inside. Like I always say, eating frozen burritos, sir.
You don't know what you got until it's gone, sir. Isn't that what they say? We had tickets to that game. We had a flight to that game, and that game was not happening, right? I think Arteta got corona on Thursday. They were calling an emergency meeting. We didn't even bother getting on the flight. And then the flights from Europe got canceled on the way home because of a travel ban.
The return flight canceled.
Proper mess.
Our wives would have killed us.
Proper
we would have been like stranded in the UK in a pandemic. Your wife being pregnant, I'm sure we would have been disowned, sir.
Well, it went over really well. You know, it was already
we could have moved to the UK, sir. We could have just made it our permanent home base for the podcast.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, American Red Devils abroad, sir. We could be, opening up a chip shop down in the row by Bishop's Blaze. We could have a good time.
I love pizza, sir. We gotta do pizza. We're from New Jersey. Love pizza.
There you go.
They have terrible pizza in the UK. Gotta show them how it's done.
Kind of like California.
Sir, I mean, yeah, like pizza that isn't on the East Coast. Feel free to come at us on Twitter on that one, but you know, you gotta respect the pizza game, sir. We're gonna quickly jump into the COVID-19 update, the pandemic, everything going around with world football. But before we do that, we'll just give a quick PSA for the pod. Without you, the fans, we're nothing. This podcast is for fans, by fans. If you want to support us, drop us a review on iTunes, 5 stars. We send you a free sticker if you email it to us. We have our store, which you can find at americanreddevils.com. Click on store. Some great merchandise. And support our blog. We have fan-generated content on our blog, some great contributors. A lot of stuff going on here at the podcast despite the pandemic. We appreciate you for tuning in. And as always, there's many different ways you can support us because we do give it away for free, sir. We this is a personal venture we've gone on. I mean, 200 episodes. This is our 201st episode. So, you know, we put a lot into it. We don't expect much out of it other than just a great relationship with the fans.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we get a lot out of this. Honestly, it's a joy to do, especially when there are games on. Even now, taking everybody through what's going on with COVID, going back to some of these old matches and just reliving them, whether or not they be a match from this season or years ago, like we did in the '08 Champions League victory. Just great to relive because this club is steeped in history, and we got to keep the boys satiated. We got to keep the fans satiated, given the lack of live football. Other than in Belarus and Nicaragua, I think those are the only leagues that the thread is betting on at the moment. But football will be back.
It's thin.
Football will be back.
What, sir? We would call each other and just talk for an hour after every Manchester United game anyway. So it's kind of like back to basics in quarantine. We would have heated debates about Rooney and Ronaldo. You are obviously a Rooney fan. I would kind of chew you out a little bit on Rooney back in the day. You get really upset. Now we just do it for everyone to listen. We do it in public.
Yeah, we're airing our dirty laundry in public now. Basically, that's the difference. We bicker. We used to bicker in private. Now we bicker on a podcast. So
there you go.
Wish you were in the bunker, sir. That's the only difference. It's like the fact that you're 3 miles down the road and we have to do this remote. Brings a tear to my eye because it's weird. It's weird that this new normal that we're all living under.
The chemistry and the audio much better in person. But hey, when life gives you lemons, or you make lemonade. We got all the cliches here on the podcast. But that being said, let's jump into the COVID-19 update. Sir, I've been through the papers, the UK, the rags. I've gotten everything I could. We essentially subscribe to this international newspaper service so we can read all the Sunday papers, kind of what they were talking about as far as what's next for the English Premier League. It's always a little dense. So if you're not up for it, you can just fast forward to the match recap. From The Guardian, Premier League could return mid-June in best case scenario. This hit the papers and everyone was all over it. Hey, league to start, June 8th, league to start June 13th. All the papers were kind of running with the headline. The reason for that was that UEFA sent a letter to all domestic leagues in Europe, and they said they should try to finish by July 31st. The reason being they're going to conduct the Champions League and Europa League competitions in August. So the idea would be to wrap up all the domestic leagues. We have no European Cup games. Then you go to your European Cups in August. That would be a riot. We've had football all summer. Unbelievable, sir. We can get to that a little later. So the English Premier League, they had a call all hands on deck last Friday to discuss that letter. And then they discussed a scenario about essentially starting training shortly after the May 7th. So sort of lockdown. If the government opens up, they'll probably start training the weekend of May 13th and 14th, giving them 4 weeks until June 13th and 14th, where they could kick off the competition and wrap it up by July 31st. Sir, I mean, we're looking at dates. We're talking about schedules. They're talking about logistics, getting to nitty gritty. How are you feeling about the odds of football being kicked off here sort of early to mid-June?
I think it's possible. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. They seem to
don't sound confident.
Well, how can you be confident, right? Like testing is still kind of a big hole for a lot of people. Certainly in the U.S., especially in the UK as well. I think they're kind of getting it under control a little bit. It seems to be the curve is flattening, but there's a lot you got to do after you flatten the curve in order to really have things under control. So I know Germany is trying to get football going in May. June feels possible for England. It's just that I don't know how they're going to do it. Are they going to do that same thing we were talking about where they pick a bunch of stadiums in the Midlands so fans don't show up?
That in a second. We can talk about all the issues. I'm just talking about the schedule here.
It seems doable. I mean, here we are. We're in mid to late April. That means they're going to come back to training like 3 weeks, and then a month later go and play football games, closed door. I mean, that feels possible. Certainly possible. How do you feel about it?
Try. I think it's on a knife's edge. I think the fact that they're even discussing it and, outlining the logistics for the media to report on, because it is a sensitive time, talk about how we should be restarting sports when there's thousands of patients suffering and families, worldwide, even more than that. But the UK, particularly the whole wage cut, it seems like football, it seems like the press in the UK, they kind of take it all out on the highly paid footballers. But at the end of the day, I think it'd be great to have these games on. I mean, I saw that and I was ecstatic because, again, sir, I'm going to be all on board and then it's going to get canceled and then I'll be heartbroken. I think that's the type of fan that I am. Regardless, the NHS in the UK, the National Health Services, they'll have final say on any resumption. And so that is the optimistic view, having 7 weeks to restart from June 13th all the way through July 31st. Most teams have 9 games left, so they have plenty of time to resume those games. But the pessimistic case, the worst case, is that there be no football until October, sir.
Oof.
7 months after the last round of matches.
Has that been
so?
That's been floated. October's been listed as a date that we might.
No,
have
they're
to
just
wait
saying
until?
the best case scenario is they start early June. The worst case scenario is there's no football until October, and that would probably include the cancellation of the season.
Right.
This is just talking about cases, but the fact they're even putting dates on a calendar right now shows you that they're really hungry for that $1 billion prize of TV rights there. Now, getting into what you brought up earlier. There was a great article in the Mail on Sunday. The headline, safety of players and staff, a major concern if football is forced to finish the season. And here they get into all the issues, right? So you can say, okay, great. We have these dates, UEFA lines up, everything works, but then you get into the logistics, the safety, et cetera, right? So technically, they can't finalize any plans until the lockdown measures are lifted. And again, the current lockdown measures through May 7th basically mean like full stop, nothing can happen. After that, the expectation is that footballers can start training, kind of like we discussed. But there would be no prospect of fans being allowed to watch games, as we probably won't be going to a game until there's a vaccine widely available and effective, sir. So, I mean, you have to think about like no fans through Q1 2021 at the earliest, right? I mean, you're looking at all the timelines for vaccines, for vaccine to go through clinical trials, get approved, be distributed. That's probably around that time. And that'd be like, if it works in the first go.
Right.
So you're gonna be watching a lot of empty seat venues, even if it's October, even if it's November, December. Think about that through January, February, March, no fans all through next year. One Premier League team I thought this was really interesting. They told players to be ready for hotel quarantine for around 50 days. So the whole idea of like the footballers being self-quarantined in hotels and playing in neutral venues looks to be on. Imagine being 50 days, no family, no nothing. That is going to be, that's a crazy, I mean, is that too much to get football back?
Their livelihood depends on it. A lot of people's livelihoods depend on it. The amount of money that is wrapped up in the TV contracts and the player contracts, promotion, relegation. We talked about it before on this podcast. There's so much incentive financially for them to get it done, make it work, that players are gonna have to bear a lot of the burden, right? They're gonna play a lot of games quickly. They're probably gonna have 2 to 3 days of turnaround before the next game. They might be stuck at a neutral ground in a neutral city, away from their family for a prolonged period of time. It's all on the table because, like you said, football is going to come back. It's the first come back with no fans, and then in certain countries around the world, I would imagine they'll start integrating some fans into the stadiums. I don't know, half full, quarter full. They'll do something. They'll start bringing people in, but it's all going to be levels and waves. It's going to be like
where you have 6 seats in between everyone. That'd be all right.
Yeah, or you like we have a 70,000 person stadium. You let in 20,000, and you got to have like a seat or two between each person. I could see that happening in the fall. Maybe not in England, but certainly like in Germany, where they're well ahead of the curve. But it's all up for play. But they're going to certainly sacrifice players' quality of life for a period of time in order to get these games done.
That's what I'm getting at. Imagine being hotel for 50 days away from your kids.
In the Midlands?
I mean,
not London.
It just seems like, look, I think for the English Premier League, that's possible. But another great point in the article, League One, League Two, those clubs, they basically want to cancel because they don't have the ability to afford all these safety measures required to play all these matches, right? So, that's fine for Manchester United and Manchester City. All the top clubs can afford these hotels to finish the seasons, but the lower leagues, they can't. So then it gets into the whole like, well, the EPL is going to finish, but the lower leagues won't. And we all know everything's kind of connected because of promotion relegation. So there's going to be some interesting resolution here. The FA, they have their work cut out because, again, to figure out all these logistics in, 6 weeks is going to be very difficult, right? And jumping into the major safety questions, I mean, this was just kind of laid out in the Mail. And these are ones where I think the closer you get to football resuming, you're going to have a ton of people, like a ton of backlash against it, right? And for me, it's one of those where as long as the Players Association is fine with it, and as long as they take the right safety measures, I'm okay with it. Because there is a little bit of getting back to normal, right? I actually think about being patriotic, right? It's like, if the UFC goes on and fighters want to fight, it kind of shows people like, hey, we're not going to let a coronavirus get us down. Maybe some people think that way, and others think that, you're forcing the players to do something they shouldn't, that's not safe, and it's irresponsible. I don't know. Where do you fall on that side of the fence?
No, I see it from both sides. So first and foremost, you have to protect the safety of the players, of the staff, and everyone that's involved in just making it possible for their
But you can't 100%.
No, you never can. You never can 100%. Right? But you got to protect the league at the same time. You don't want like all of these clubs to go bankrupt out of money and completely destroy the football hierarchy in the United Kingdom after 125 years of history. They don't want it to all come crashing down. So they're gonna push it. They're gonna do it. They're gonna try and make it as safe as possible. But at the same time, they want to get it back as soon as possible. Not only for the money, but like you said, the morale. It's like, you imagine how far it would go in the United States to start having some sports. Just like everyone's stuck at home, kind of like watching too much news, and sports would be a great refresher. A great refresher. So we need that as soon as possible, and we're gonna get it. I think we're seeing United this summer. No fans at the stadium, and that's gonna help a lot of people, because you don't realize how much of a joy sports brings to people's lives until you don't have it. Right now, when you don't have it,
I'm watching replay games, and I'm like, couldn't be happier.
Multiple a week. I'm watching because it's not as good as the real thing, bro. It's like it's like a watered down version.
Manchester United on my TV. 2007 right now. I'm watching it right now as we record this podcast. I'm looking at David Moyes' mug.
Double dipping over
like here. Sir Alex with the boss jacket, sir. I just have it on in the background.
What year?
Just get me in the mood. 2007.
Great year.
Right now, everything's up 1-0. Don't worry. We got Ronaldo, sir. We got Paul Scholes. We got Michael Carrick. We got Patrice the Beast Evra.
They were stacked back then.
A few good players, sir. So here's the questions from the journalists, right? And these are the ones they're not going to be able to answer. So there is going to be risk if they do resume the league. And this is kind of going to be like, similar to how like the government got involved and they canceled that UFC event in the United States, even though the athletes wanted to go ahead with it. I could see everything being ready to go, clubs and players ready to go, and the government stepping in saying, no way. So number one, how to deal with players who suffer from asthma or anyone else who's high risk. Whether clubs might have to perform heart scans on players who've contracted the virus for myocarditis or inflammation of the heart muscle, because again, if you've had this disease, it does affect your different organs, and it has different inflammatory effects that are unknown. So like, how do you deal with players who've had it? How to protect support staff who are often less fit and over 50 years old. Think of Roy Hodgson at Crystal Palace. He's 72. God forbid if he got it. How do you treat injured players when private hospitals are being used to relieve pressure on the NHS? What's the policy if a player does contract the virus despite quarantine? Will a team have to isolate for a further 14 days, delaying fixtures again? What to do with venues? Should you use neutral venues?
It's a lot of good questions. A lot of good, important questions that need to be answered.
I mean, should they host multiple matches a day to minimize the number of medical staff, ITV operators, like camera operators, support staff who need to travel? I heard estimates of 300 to 500 people are required to get a match.
Wow.
Broadcasts, right? Think of the training. Each club, think of the player, right? Players, coaching staff, that's got to be like 40, 50, a team. Easily. Then you have the basically everyone in the broadcast studio. I'm not pretending to estimate, but you can easily get to a couple hundred. And then you get to refereeing staff, operations, everything. So security. So yeah, 300 to 500 sounds about right. And there's no way that they have the testing ability to do this. Also, they said that the EPL won't restart unless the government has the ability to test the players, right? Because the players aren't going to take tests from the public to be able to play matches. So
what happens?
So many questions that once you start getting closer, these questions get louder.
What happens?
I know that makes no sense, but I just think it's going to be really hard to do.
It's going to be super hard to do, and these questions are the right questions, and they're also very difficult questions to answer with all the information we have today. But what happens if Germany is way ahead of the curve on testing, and they had no problem getting football up and going, and then the UK is just severely behind in ability to test players, ability to test support staff, and that ends up dragging it out of when they can restart football. Because I could definitely see that happening, right? Because I was hearing dates about football being restarted in Germany in May, because they got much more testing capacity. They have far fewer numbers. The hospitals aren't overwhelmed the same way some of them are in the UK. So It's gonna be interesting to see how different countries in Europe are ahead of this or behind this, and what their approach will be to getting football going again.
Well, there's going to be someone who does it, right? And it's like I always say the UFC, because they always say they're going to be first. So the UFC says, "Hey, we're going to be first." The reason is with the testing. The real issue is you could be asymptomatic and test positive. So you could basically have no symptoms, get other people sick, test negative, and then test positive like a few days later, right? That's why this is such a hard problem medically. Now, when it comes to like resuming leagues, I think people are just going to do it. Like if Germany does it, everything seems to be like good there, then I think it'll give England more confidence. I think you just don't want to be first.
Yeah.
So when the first sport does come back and they prove that they can do it without any issue in a controlled environment, I think that will give other sports confidence. Hey, we're not the only one. We're not sticking our neck out there. So maybe Germany's kind of like the canary in the coal mine, see how it goes. But, they're all just trying to eliminate worst case scenario. What if somebody gets it and then there's an outbreak? So not only did you try to restart, you weren't safe. You had to cancel the league anyway. And now you have the liability of getting tons of footballers, staff, et cetera, sick. I mean, we all love Roy Hodgson, sir.
Who doesn't? Big Roy. There are lots of risks. Like there are risks if you have older folks in your staff. Like you said, people that are going to work at the actual stadium just to get it operational.
Mick Phelan, he looks like he's got
He's over 50.
He's got.
He must be.
I mean, Mick Phelan.
No, I don't want anything to happen to. I don't want anything to happen to anyone. So it almost feels a little trivial, right, when you start talking about life and death, and then football, money. There's a ton of money involved in this. Players' livelihoods, staff's livelihoods. But when you think about all the questions that need to be answered, and the lack of certainty around everything that's going on, testing, and there's just so many open questions, and it's going to be tight. It's going to be real tight to get this done.
It's hard to punt on it. So I actually think that the league, basically, they're going to sweep all these questions under the rug, right? Because they clearly can't answer them. It's not going to be safe. There's no way they can make it safe. They can try to make it as safe as possible, but it won't be 100% because of all the things we just talked about. I think they're going to be ready to go because there's $1 billion at stake. I think the players are going to be ready to go because they're younger and they have millions of dollars at stake. Again, the people who are at risk, like we said, the older support staff, they're not really stakeholders here. So as far as the league goes, I think they're going to be the one to say we're ready to rock, but it's going to be the government to spoil the party if things haven't cooled off enough, right? So if they're still dealing with testing issues or hospitals being overwhelmed, there's no way they're going to let it go down. So I think so goes the overall outbreak in the UK, so goes the EPL. And I honestly, I think early June's too early. Realistically, probably later June, and then you're looking at 9 games in 4 weeks.
It's gonna be tight.
They could do it.
You can see it happening. You can also see it all happening in July. Even if they don't kick off July, they could do 9 to 10 games, right? Because some teams have 10 league games left. But how do you deal with the FA Cup? Right? Do you do the FA Cup in August if they're doing Europa League and Champions League? It's and then you have to think about how do you reprioritize the testing, right? So all of a sudden you need players to be able to get tested basically every day, and then all the staff to get tested every day.
Yes.
And then you're reprioritizing Premier League players over the general population of the United Kingdom.
Well, no, there has to be enough. Apparently, last Friday, the UK tested 23,000 people in a single day, right? And that's expanding. So if they have, if that goes to 50,000 or 100,000 and then all those tests aren't being used, then they could use them for football players. And they said they couldn't do that. They wouldn't resume the league unless they had that slack in testing. Because again, they're basically in a position where they're not going to allocate NHS resources to play football, which makes sense because it's that'd be a PR nightmare, right? Either way, sir, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions. We're going to keep you posted here on the American Red Devils podcast. I know it's kind of boring, but getting into the weeds here and trying to figure out what's going on in the UK, because obviously in the United States, everyone's talking about NFL draft, everyone's talking about UFC or NBA. And you really got to get into those Sunday rags to figure out what's going on in the UK, who the real stakeholders are, what's going on with cases there, and when can we realistically see football. But, I'm hoping for sort of mid to late June. I think early June's a little too much right now. And again, that's assuming nobody gets COVID during this training, if they come back to training, right? I think training's a good litmus test
for how well they can kind of contain it, because you start with a smaller subset of people. All right, can you come to Carrington? Maybe we don't have everybody go back. Or maybe you do like some players come in the morning, some players come in the afternoon. There's got to be a way to like do it so the players kind of keep 6 feet away. And then if that goes well for 3 or 4 weeks, then you can try and do the games closed door. But it's going to be incremental, like you said. So, sir, this is why it's important we do this every week. I hate to say it, it does get a little repetitive, but it's changing so fast, and it is different every week. So it's good to provide these regular updates. So I think it's the right thing to do.
No, absolutely. So, sir, now we've got all the coronavirus logistics behind us. Let's jump into Manchester United 2, Manchester City 0 at Old Trafford, the latest Manchester derby. That's right. United did the double stun. Couldn't believe it. McSauce with a great goal. What a player for Manchester United. I mean, we were in great form. Igalo with the back heel to Fred to set up the Ederson error in the 96th minute. I mean, this team, sir, I really hope they can pick it up when they come back, whenever they do come back, because we were in top form. I haven't been more confident in Manchester United since this game, like including the last game where Igalo just like was completely on fire. I could see there being issues coming back. You know, it's like with football, there's those ebbs and flows, you know, and you got to ride the highs and you got to, ride the lows like we had this season. But, it's hard to just jumpstart on the high.
No, I think the biggest issue, I think the sentiment is going to stay high, right? Like they left going into quarantine feeling like winners, feeling like they have wind underneath their wings. I still think that mentality is going to be there. I think the mood has shifted ever since Bruno's been in and they went on that great run leading up to the pause in the season. But
oh my God!
Honestly, I think the biggest issue, the biggest issue is going to be like now they have too many choices. Ole's going to have a hard time picking a team. He's going to have Pogba available. He's going to have Rashford available, and then all the players that have been just kicking ass, like Matic and Fred. Like, how do you have to drop one of those for Paul Pogba? It's a hard choice to make
in tight fashion if the league comes back. So it might be right. I mean, and here's the thing. Bruno Fernandes, I forget how good Bruno Fernandes is because I'm like, all right, yeah, like we watched a few matches with him. Like, yeah, he's really good. He's really good. And then you rewatch this game, you're like, oh my God. And like the 92nd minute, he's like full out sprint, like has unbelievable gas tank, unbelievable will to win. I mean, he's like, dude, he's almost like Ronaldo 2.0. Like he's that good.
He's got the mentality.
Game changer.
He's got the mentality. And he wasn't even a man of the match for me, right? Like I think either Wan-Bissaka or Matic and Fred, like the midfield just completely shut it down this game. Even though Let City have all the ball, it just United never looked that threatening. They had a couple good chances. One at the beginning, that like the Aguero offside, the Sterling at the end where he should have tapped it in.
Yeah.
But other than that, like United were pretty well in control, and that's not usually how these City games go down. We're nicking a win off of like a counterattack. We're really like backs to the wall the whole game. Now look at the possession stats, like 70-30, but they weren't that threatening. We outshot them on target, and that's not usually the case. So there's a change happening.
And we went at them. There were periods of play where we had 80% of the ball, and we were going at them. I mean, like City, to be fair, they have a few injuries on the defensive side, but it's we outplayed them at home like we should. And to be honest, playing at Old Trafford against City past couple of years, they've had our number. So it was great to get a huge win at home, especially with McTominay killing it off in the final minutes, sir. But let's jump in that lineup. Dave saves role number 1 in net. Back 3, Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof. We had Williams on the left wing, Wan-Bissaka on the right wing. We had Matic and Fred in the midfield 2, Fernandes at 10, Martial and James in a 2 up top. Sir, what do you make of that lineup?
Great formation, great lineup, given the players that are at your disposal going to this game. I don't think I would have changed a thing. Everyone kind of banked on the back 3, and I think that is the move considering how dominant in possession City can be. So you have that nice front 4 block to kind of shore up the defense. So, everything to like. You have Fernandes in the hole, and then you got your pace merchants up front with Martial and James. So even heading into this game, I was very optimistic based on the starting 11. How'd you think?
No, I'm more of a back 4 guy. I don't like to do the back 3, especially when you put Shaw in there.
So am I. But
I do think that you could see that when there were cracks, those when Mahrez came on, and then Ole did make the adjustment where you put Shaw at left wing back, you get Bailly in the back 3. I like that. It's a little more steely. I think it's a little too cute playing Shaw and Williams together. That's the only thing I don't like about that lineup, but everything else looked real solid. Also, we had McSauce on the bench, but he had recently come back from injury. So, I remember it's funny watching a game live and then rewatching it. It's like almost you can't enjoy it because I was so stressed out.
Yeah.
Being up 1 for so long, sir. But hey, let's jump in. You want to lead it off, sir? Let's jump in first half.
Absolutely, sir. So City came out the better team, to be fair. They had a lot of the possession and were coming at United like they tend to do, especially in the early moments. And Sterling didn't have to wait too long. It's probably one of the best chances City had in the first half. And he had a nice curler, which De Gea parried pretty well, but good early save to deny the Englishman. And
David De Gea, world number 1, earning that wage, son.
Absolutely, sir. And then the 16th minute, Dan James had a nice chance. He smashed it right into Ederson. Maybe could have done a little better on the far side, but a good chance for the Welshman early in the game. He was threatening throughout this game, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, his pace is undeniable. It's just kind of the final third decision-making is as expected with a youngster. So, I mean, look, the pace is natural. He's got to rewatch this film, understand situationally, where Bruno's going to get to the penalty spot, when he should pull it back, when he should take the shot. But again, I think it's really encouraging when we saw Dan James running riot, especially against a City defense, for such a young player to come in a starting role in such a big game. I do think he performed very well. I agree.
But I would say this is the best and worst of Dan James all in one match. His pace is unbelievable. He does have the ability to beat a man. But those simple kind of squaring to the ball, which, like you said, this is his first season in the Premier League. I think he will get better at that. But those are the passes he's got to be making, because that's the move all day is the cutback, given him the amount of speed that he has. So I'm not sure he's always used to having a player like Fernandes sitting at the top of the box just waiting for the ball, but he's going to have to get used to that.
Compared to Delo, I mean, who else do we got? I mean, right?
He's the only right winger we got. Yeah, he'll do until we bring Sancho in. And then the 28th minute, Martial, another opportunity where really should have passed to Bruno, who was right in the center of the penalty box, waiting for a pass, and instead Martial takes it on his own. Hey, you're a striker, you want to shoot. But you got to be looking for Bruno because he was just sitting, waiting for a goal.
Cool. It's also Bruno just came into the side. I think, there's a little bit of chemistry that needs to form on the pitch. You talk about full pace EPL play. People are saying, hey, Bruno Fernandes is always getting to the penalty spot, always look for the pullback. It's one of those things where in the future, Martial's not going to look. He's going to know he's there, and it's going to work. It's just they haven't had enough time to play together to get that sort of, sixth sense, if you will.
Well, that's where I'm looking forward to. If there is 4 weeks of training before we restart season, it's like a summer, workout camp all over again, where you have Bruno, Pogba, and Rashford all in the fold. So that's a very exciting option. So hopefully that happens, sir.
Yeah, just like 3-a-day practices in New Jersey.
I don't miss that. Football. I don't miss that. Anyway, sir, in the 30th minute.
Martial onto this. On the volley, brilliant! Oh, what a strike! What a creative, clever free kick. Fernandes with a lovely little dink. And the finish from Martial. Too hot to handle for Ederson. And United lead 1-0.
United lead 1-0. What a cheeky free kick straight out of Bruno's locker, right? This is why you bring him on. Just has the confidence to do the pass. There's a little bit of gamemanship between Martial, Fred, and Bruno, and just a great goal. Obviously, Ederson probably could have done a little bit more, but I think he was just caught off guard. And to be honest, he didn't have the best day, did he?
Hey, don't like Ederson at all. And when he's making errors at Old Trafford, reminds me of, I believe, the backup, Claudio Bravo, sir. He
was prone to a gaffe, wasn't he? He was certainly prone to a gaffe.
Yeah, look, Bruno Fernandes, ice in the veins. The way he hit that ball, just like he's on the training field. I mean, just perfect pass. Martial on the jump. I mean, this is one of those things that they're already clicking like this in training. It's gonna be scary what comes next between these two. They're also yucking it up on the bench after they both got taken off. I mean, these two, I think we're gonna see a lot more from Martial and Fernandes. They seem to be on the same page, and just amazing link-up play. Great finish from Martial.
Great finish from Martial, and like you said, they are starting to develop a relationship which is great to see, because it's only been 10 games that he's been around. So the more they get to play together, the better they're going to get. For United, after we got that goal, we looked a much more dominant team. I think it added a lot of confidence to us that City were there to be taken. Fred brought down in the 42nd minute and given a yellow for diving by Otamendi. You rewatch the clip and you see that actually that could have been a penalty. So City was
Probably
escaping
should have
with
been a penalty,
should have been.
and it's very unfair for Fred to get this yellow. And what the hell is VAR there for, other than overturning a decision like this?
Well, we've gotten our fair share of calls this year, so I'm not going to complain too much about VAR because we have been on the right side of that.
We were pretty stressed when we were watching this game, I do recall.
We
and this was
certainly were.
The last Manchester United game that you and me watched together in person, sir.
For a while. We're going to be saying a lot of stuff like that.
This is the last game that we got. We get together pretty much every game that's played on the weekend, and this is the last one, sir. I mean, it's a tragedy.
It was the last one where fans are going to be at Old Trafford for a while as well. When you watch that, the best way possible. So I think that momentum will help. Right, the sentiment at the end of this game couldn't have been higher. So
instant classic too. I mean,
it is.
You think, oh, why are you rewatching this game? It's all right, this game was do you remember how good we had it? And the answer is no. Sir, second half, what were you thinking from Ole?
Second half, don't lose your head early because they have a tendency come out of a half, either with its first or second City side, and come at you. And they certainly tried to in the beginning of the second half. Your mom is calling again. She loves calling when we're doing a podcast, sir. So you got to tell Patty.
Ma,
the meatloaf. Ma, the meatloaf. So Aguero gets caught offside. A little bit fortunate. I think it was the right call, but Aguero looked dangerous because that could have been one of those things where they call it offside and then they overturn it because he wasn't offside, and De Gea didn't end up going for it because he thought it was offside. Those I hate those calls the most, where they kind of impact the state of play, and it was looking like that could have been one of them.
Sir, my mom, always calling me
it's because she loves you, sir. It's because she loves you.
Of course, sir. Of course. Sir, let's talk about the next chance.
49th minute, Ederson did not have a great day, misses a touch, and the ball almost rolls into the back of the net. Martial goes crashing into the post, trying to get his foot on it and bury it at home. I think he could have done a little better, but to be fair, Ederson recovered well. He should have slammed it. I mean, Lukaku would have slammed that in.
If you watch it, if you pause it in the moment that Ederson fluffs the ball, there's no way Martial doesn't get there with a full sprint and doing a slide tackle finish there. Like you said, absolutely Lukaku would have finished that. I think he thought he had him. And so he thought he could just do everything standing up.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for Ederson to recover. I thought this was a missed opportunity. I think Martial, look, I do rate the Frenchman. He did get his goal, but there was a few. I can give Dan James a pass on a few of these, but Martial, be our raw number 9, he could have had 2 today. He could have had probably 2 goals and an assist. You put this one and you pass to Bruno in the other situation. I'm going to be a little more, I guess they have a little more criticism for Martial here. We ended up, obviously we came out on top, but he had some opportunities he could have done a lot better with.
No, he did. I think the most egregious one was that one in the first half that you talked about where he shot instead of just squaring it off to Bruno, who was wide open for a goal. And the standards have to be a little higher for Martial, right? He's been on the team now for 6 years and been in the league for a while. You expect his decision-making to be a little bit better, but like we talked about earlier, I think everyone's decision-making is going to get better the more they know that Bruno Fernandes is going to be in the box waiting for them to pass it to them because he's such a dangerous threat.
Absolutely.
City started turning things on at this point. They had a lot more of the possession, and then United would just look dangerous in the counter. 55-minute, Foden takes a long-range shot that De Gea parries over. 71st minute, James beats his man and shoots from the right with Bruno on the penalty spot again. This was kind of like the same as the Martial chance, but on the opposite side of the pitch.
This one, yeah, but this one was probably even more guaranteed.
He was wide open.
I mean, they're both pretty bad. But again, Dan James, he's young. You gotta give him some time. Look, you're right. In the 55th minute, City had a lot of the ball. Not too much going on as far as chance creation. But in the 75th minute, I'm not going to lie, this was their best chance of the game. I think it was Mahrez squares it to Sterling, and he completely fluffs it. I mean, Sterling, if you ever play with him in FIFA, or you've ever played against him in FIFA, terrible finishing. He's a terrible finisher, and this is just another example. This should have been a goal for Manchester City. But again, for how much they controlled the second half, to have this really be their only clear-cut opportunity, I think Manchester United the midfield and the defense did a hell of a job.
They did
against Manchester City.
No, they played like a team. And like you said, the Aguero offside and the Sterling chance, which should have been a goal, but I think they mentioned it on the game. He's played in 20 times against Manchester United and never scored a goal. And he's had his chances.
And he's a Scouse bastard.
He's a Scouse bastard OG. Yeah. So anyway, he doesn't get his goal. In the 78th minute, big subs coming on. Bailly and McSauce. Let's bring on the steal for Martial and Brandon Williams. I like that change. I think it was the right move to make. 84th minute, inch perfect.
No, those subs won the game. I mean, Luke Shaw went on the left wing. Bailly went at right in the 3.
Because Mahrez was threatening at this point.
Went to the left. Maguire stayed in the center. And then McTominay completely bossed the midfield. This totally changed the game. And when you talk about who should our starting 11 be, if we're playing a back 3, it's got to be Bailly, Maguire, Lindelof. I think Williams on the bench. And then the midfield, too. It's hard to pick with Modric and McTominay, but I think it's got to be McTominay and Fred.
I don't know, man. It's hard. We have choices. That's what I'm saying. And you got Pogba coming into the mix. You're going to have Rashford back.
Not even thinking about Pogba.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to Pogba in a little bit in the United in the news, but Ole is going to be, I think, almost overwhelmed with choices, and that's going to be hard because Fergie, nobody was better than Fergie at rotating his players, but he needs to show that, when you're fleet with chance and you've got plenty of options, how do you manage the team, especially with a bunch of stars like he has now? That sub was big, and then big challenge from Maguire and AWB on Jesus. He could have gone down for a pen, but actually stayed on his feet, which was a good move. So nothing came of that. Gallo for Bruno in the 88th minute, which was lovely just to see because Bruno got his standing ovation, and Gallo looked terrific in the last couple of minutes of regular time and stoppage time, just showing that touch and why Ole brought him into the fold because...
Dude, the crowd was Oleing. Gallo was dipping his shoulder, beating City players.
I know, that was great.
He was flicking it. He was holding it up. He was bossing the ball. I mean, talk about exceeding expectations for coming from the Chinese Super League. Gallo FC all day. I mean, again, Bruno and him, you can't pick two better players to come in the side. Exactly what we needed. You could see what Gallo was up to. He's perfect. Bring him in the 70th minute up. He's a target man. Kick the ball to him. He'll hold it up. He'll let Fred, the wingers, run by him. It's exactly how you want to balance a game. Gallo coming in or playing against lower opposition sides, right? I mean, it's exactly the type of striker that we need at Manchester United, and you saw it. Probably should have taken off. Probably should have brought him on earlier.
No doubt. No doubt, sir. And, if the win wasn't good enough, stoppage time just seemed to go and go and go. But in the 96th minute, it's got to be Scotty McSauce.
We've had 6 minutes of stoppage time. It's gone quick from halfway. Oh, amazing! Unbelievable! Scott McTominay brings the house down. And Manchester United, in the Manchester rain, are going to do the double over City for the first time in a decade. Ederson.
First time in a decade, sir.
Sir, I got to jump in here. I mean, why was that not a Telemundo call? I mean, I'm not in the bunker. You're getting stale here. I mean, I was like, there's no way that's not going to be the Telemundo 1 minute goal call. And then you get the Manchester United MUTV. Oh, bringing the house down.
Well, if it was a live match, it's a replay. It's a replay. So
that's the worst call out of any of them I heard.
Oh, there you go. This guy's not happy.
Didn't capture the moment, sir. I was listening to.
Were you watching Telemundo? You should have.
The match I downloaded with Sky Sports. Martin Tyler making the call, the double over City. I'm big into match calls, sir. That was pretty weak, I'm gonna say, for this situation. But amazing goal from Scott McTominay. The number one thing you have to look at is the desire. Ederson, errant pass. McTominay on his horse to get to that ball. First time, puts in the net. Old Trafford ripping, sir. Probably the best atmosphere we've seen at home all year. What a win. What a way to put an exclamation point on it. Manchester United till the day I die, son.
Nothing less than they deserved. Nothing less than they deserved, right? They deserved to win, and they probably deserved to win by more than one, to be fair, given all the chances they had to square off the ball to Bruno Fernandes earlier in the match. But hell of a goal from Scott McTominay. What a finish on the first time hit, just unbelievable, curling into the back of the net. And Ederson getting nowhere near it. Ederson getting nowhere near it. Sir, now I know, okay? Well, you want to come to the potty room, bro? Let's come over here.
MUTV calls are, yeah.
I mean, it's better than what's his face. It's better than Arlo White.
I don't know. I don't know. All right, so let's get into the match reaction. United, 28% of the ball at home. That's getting down there. City, 72%. Shots on target, 6-4 for United. United unbeaten in their last 10 games, including this one, sir. 1-7, drawn 3. Their longest run without defeat since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first 11 games in charge.
And we're stuck at that now. We're stuck at the 11-game mark again, sir.
We saw that 11th game. We were there for it. Fulham away. Unbelievable. And this is the second time in Pep Guardiola's managerial career that he has suffered 3 defeats against specific opponents in a single season. And last time it was against Liverpool. Sir, does that mean we're going to challenge for the title next year? I hope so.
I'll see.
Tony Martial is only the second United player to score in 3 consecutive Premier League starts in Manchester derbies, and the first since Eric Cantona, who did it and did it 5 in a row between March 1993 and April 1996. Again, City were not the same, so I would have to say Martial, another Frenchman who's doing the job up top for Manchester United. It's in great company that he's with the king. And since making his debut on February 1st, Manchester United's Bruno Fernandes has been directly involved in more goals in the Premier League than any other player. I mean, best signing. Sir, I don't want to jinx him. But Bruno Fernandes, we're a different team with him in the starting 11. Unbelievable, sir. Should we hear from the manager?
Let's do it, sir. Let's see what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had to say after this resounding 2-0 victory against the City Blues.
Questions on the game, if you'd like to start?
You must be delighted with that performance.
Yeah, result is always the deciding factor. You're so happy with another win, 3 points. Performance was almost as expected against them, of course, because you do know that you have to defend well. They do play that type of football that you have to drop deep at times. But I thought first half, when we managed to put the press high up, that we made them make mistakes. First 15-20 minutes maybe were harder than we should have made it, but we started hurrying them a bit more, harassing them, winning the ball higher up and created chances. We had some big ones.
That's a change, isn't it, to how you played against them recently, to actually force those mistakes high up the pitch. It didn't feel quite such a counter-attacking.
No, we've tried before as well to do that, because we know that the more you can keep them out of their rhythm and make them make mistakes gives you a better chance. But they're so good, they're comfortable, and of course Pep wants them to play and make attempts to play out from the back. And but it's an absolute, as I've said a couple of times here now in the press, a privilege to have players like this. The commitment, desire, the hard work they put in, to be humble enough, the humility to know that we have to work our socks off. And I think that's what the fans love about this group of players as well. I think the connection is there to be seen.
Spot on from Ole. That's my manager, sir. These players, they're fighting for the badge in a way that United fans have been crying out for years, probably since Fergie left, to be honest. Haven't had a club this hungry, a group of players that are this eager to prove it on the pitch, and I think it's just getting better and better because they're getting more of those personalities into the fold, dude. Bruno's got it. Rashford's got it. McTominay's got it. Maguire's got it. It's the right mix, and he's going to hopefully, from what we're hearing, is bringing more personalities that just want to win. You know, they're not there for money. Money is just a bonus. They're there to win silverware and play for the greatest club in the world.
Speaking of not being there for money and playing for the greatest club in the world, sir, let's jump into United in the news. First bit of news.
You started off. You started off, sir. Started off. I'll let you handle this one.
Paul Pogba likely to sign new contract with increased wages / staying at the club until 2024. Sir, all of a sudden, I think it was, Friday or Saturday, everyone started chirping about Paul Pogba signing a new deal for Manchester United. And I tried to run down these sources. They're very vague. Came down to a YouTube channel of a Spanish journalist who's doing sort of a Q&A, and he's close to Real Madrid, and he was talking about Paul Pogba going to Real Madrid, and basically that's not likely. So the story there is Zinedine Zidane rates Paul P, but Real Madrid aren't sort of keen to do the signing. The main issue there is the asking price of Manchester United, £150 million. No one's going to be thinking about paying that price given, we're not even playing football. All the clubs are thinking about losing money. I don't think anyone's going to pay upwards of that amount of money unless it's for probably one or two players.
Right.
One's name's Mbappe. The other's named Neymar. And Paul Pogba isn't on the list. And I do think Mbappe is probably the priority for Real Madrid if you're sort of reading the tea leaves. And they don't have enough money to do double barrel 150 million signings. So
what about Harry Kane, bro? I thought they were in for Harry. Right.
yeah, exactly. The only other club who could do the deal would be Juventus. But again, they're having some financial issues as a result of coronavirus as well. They don't have the cash to pony up. So Paul Pogba, who said he wanted to leave last summer, whose agent's been chirping all year that he wants out, who's had sort of the mysterious injury spells, part of me thinks that some of the injury nonsense in January had to do with holding out for a transfer. If you're sort of reading kind of how everything went, there's nowhere for him to go. We haven't heard anything from Riola. We haven't heard any rumors of him being linked. Riola knows Juventus well. He knows Madrid well, so he was trying to put that in the papers, I want to say, towards the last few matches that we did watch. And clearly no one's going to be able to pay up. So Paul Pogba is pretty much left with no choice other than to re-up the contract. Now, the most insane part of this is that Manchester United are willing to do it. Manchester United are ready and willing. They want to keep him at United. Ole apparently wants to keep him at United, and we're ready to pay up for Paul Pogba's services. Part of me thinks that part of that is that eventually the market will return and that we want him under contract for an extended period of time so that we could get that big money sale. Because who knows, 2-3 years from now, maybe 2 seasons from now, that might be the right time to sell him. Either way, it looks like the stars have aligned. The best thing for Paul Pogba and the best thing for Manchester United, sign him on a new deal. What do you make of all of it?
I mean, even before football got paused, canceled, postponed, it was looking like this was happening anyway. All the noise about whether or not Real Madrid or Juventus
there was a
were
Juve
Juve
swap deal rumor.
There was, but it wasn't much.
Deal,
no one's paying much money. They were paying like
DeLitt,
30 million
River,
and like Ramsey. It's like nobody wants that deal.
No, but I'm saying that's Riola's doing. Riola's the one floating this.
He was still pushing for
Paul
it.
Pogba's camp. I'm talking Paul Pogba's camp is the one throwing these swap deals in the press.
Paul Pogba's camp is the one pushing a lot of the rumors about him leaving Old Trafford in the press. He wants
to go to Real Madrid.
Yes, his worst enemies are his crew, are his entourage. They're people have defended Paul Pogba top to bottom, especially fans of this club, almost to a shocking degree. And you have to, they almost act like he hasn't said anything about posturing to leave the club when it's like he's made it known that he wants to leave. His agent has certainly made it known that he wants to leave, and his brother has done the same. Where do I stand on this?
Not only has his agent said he wants to leave, his agent says that he wants Ole Gunnar Solskjaer fired in order for Paul Pogba to re-sign his new deal. The only other piece of news I heard before this that Paul Pogba wanted to re-sign was that Ole has to be fired for him to re-sign a new deal. Now, I think
that was in Jan. I think that was before we went on the good run, though. I do.
So,
but that was already it was already showing that there's no buyers. It was what we saw.
Here's the best part. But the best part about the whole thing, and look, I still think there could be a happy ending for both parties, right? Because at the end of the day, Paul Pogba was under contract. At the end of the day, he likes getting paid tons of money. We've paid him tons of money for pretty much doing nothing this season. 7 league games, not even starting. I think that because of the coronavirus, it's like, hey, let's chill out. Manchester United are in a good spot. Bruno Fernandes changes the game. Paul Pogba can probably see that United are a dangerous side now with Bruno Fernandes in the side, as well as everything that's been going on, the 10 games unbeaten. And he wants to jump back on the ship. Now, if Paul Pogba, we win Europa Cup, we qualify for top 4, or back in the Champions League, I'm sure he wouldn't mind playing at Manchester United, right? But sort of as things were, January, February, they were pretty low, and that's probably when he really wanted out or was looking for a deal. So the fact there isn't a deal and the fact things are going good for United, I think it makes sense for the club to get him under contract again. And if he starts, if all these rumors rear their ugly head again, we have him under contract till 2024, only ensure that we get a higher asking price from another club. But regardless, I want to put all the BS away. I will forgive Paul Pogba for everything as long as he starts playing for the club, gives everything for the badge, and just shuts his agent up. I mean, I'll forgive Paul Pogba, for this season. I'm happy to write it off. He's just got to make it about the football. It's got to be, hey, I love this club. Hey, we all want to win. Hey, it's got to be exactly what you want from the players. It should just be focused on the football. None of this Real Madrid Juventus for 2 years. I can't take it, man.
It's exhausting.
Ever since we won the World Cup, it's just like,
it's been nonstop.
If you don't want to be here, don't be here. That's the best thing. Because guess what? Bruno Fernandes wants to be at Manchester United. How does he play out in left field? Dan James wants to be at Manchester United. Harry Maguire wants to be there. Even David De Gea wants to be there. Look at the players who want to be there and what they give for the shirt. I want players who want to play for United. We got rid of all like the Memphis Depays. We got rid of a lot of the players that didn't want to be there, and we're looking a lot better. So the last thing we need to do is keep someone who doesn't want to be at Manchester United. So,
and that's what my concern is. Like, does he want to join? I mean, does he want to re-sign his deal because nobody's going to buy him and no one's going to pay him $30 million a year to play football in Italy or Spain, or does he want to do it because he sees a resurgence happening in United?
He wants to do it because it's the only way he's going to make more cheddar, son. But now here's the thing that I also need to sympathize with Paul Pogba a little bit. Like, we're fans. It's all emotional for us. So it's almost like, we talk about the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend. It's almost just like, we want people to love Manchester United, right? And this is a professional business. Paul Pogba looks at his livelihood. He looks as a way to make money. So he's thinking about it probably in that vein, not so much of the emotional side of the fan of like we think. We're like, yeah, everyone wants to play for United. It's the best club ever. Like Ronaldo left United and never looked back. Kind of feels like I got dumped, sir. Like my favorite player on Manchester United left and started like hanging out with all these other really hot Real Madrid and Juventus, all these other teams. He's going to MLS, and he's never going to look back, and it hurts my feelings, sir. So it's like, but that's not the way it is. Ronaldo was great, and he's a professional, and he's going to move on to other clubs, wants new challenges, and it's not always about the club like it is for us. So I do understand that dynamic a little bit.
No, it's different. But here's the thing: you said it, and I'm gonna repeat what you said because it's so important. I am cool with Paul Pogba re-signing this deal as long as after he signs this deal, his agent shut the fuck up. Because it's like, if it's
that's not gonna happen.
No, but then why the fuck are we doing it? If he's still gonna be posturing for a deal,
it's because
I know
we don't have to pay him more money, that much more than we're already paying him, and we'll ensure he doesn't leave on a free, which is probably the worst case scenario.
But at that point, if he's going to continue to be posturing for a deal, that's not the type of environment you want when you're trying to build something new. It's like you don't need people that are angling for an exit. He needs to commit on the Manchester United official pod and be like, I'm here to stay. My agent's not going to posture for a deal. My brother's going to shut the hell up. And that's it. And then we'll all be good.
He's never going to say that. Paul Pogba keeps it close to the chest. He lets his agent do the dirty work. His agent's probably like, I actually think they're going to come out with some new agent regulations, and a lot of it will be because of Mino Raiola. I actually think, FIFA will be forced to act on sort of the sign-ons and bonuses, and they're going to start regulating them because of Mino Raiola, as well as like what they can say. Because he's pushing all boundaries and not in a good way. But look, Paul Pogba is going to get paid top dollar, and I'm sure Paul Pogba is fine with that. I mean, I would if I was Paul Pogba. I just wish I was playing a little more football. No one talks about how much Messi makes or Ronaldo makes. They only talk about all the goals they score. Right. Paul Pogba seems the opposite. So look, man, who knows where this is going to go? I think all signs point to him re-signing because there's literally. It's like the stars align with this. If not for coronavirus, he probably would have left for probably around, I would say 90 million.
Yeah, probably the same amount he was bought for. This is kind of like what happened with De Gea, right? Things kind of just like, it looked like he was going to move, and then there was the fax machine incident, and then he had a dip in form right before Real Madrid moved for a goalkeeper, got Courtois. Then there were no buyers, and all of a sudden we're stuck with De Gea, which I still think is great. He's had some gas, but I don't
think we're stuck with anyone. We are David De Gea. That fax machine, it should be in.
David De Gea is a top keeper. He's a great keeper. He's had some gaffes recently, in the last year and a half, but he's still a top keeper, and he's who I want at the club. Pogba, he's got a lot to prove. He's on his day. He's a hell of a player, but I just like this whole team now is built around work rate. High work rate all the time, which is very much reminiscent of how Fergie used to play. Nobody was slacking. There ain't no yogging. No Yogbas were allowed in a Sir Alex Ferguson side. So if he can bring that same level,
hey, he didn't Yogba in the World Cup. I mean, that's the one thing that kills me about Pogba. If you look at the role that Deschamps made him play in the World Cup, he had to play CDM. He put in a shift, and obviously it killed it.
He had Conte next to him, though. He didn't play CDM.
No, of course, he worked for the team. Clearly, when you're talking about World Cup country, it's a little different than just sort of the day in, day out of playing for your club. Your club does pay your wages, so we know he can do it. The question is, if we're in it Paul Pogba seems to be, and also like, I'm not trying to make excuses for Paul Pogba. I'm just trying to understand his plight, which is that if we're in a title race, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more out of Paul Pogba. Right. Like I think it's the stakes too for him as a player, like as what he thinks of himself, that, battling for top 4, he's not going to maybe run around the pitch, but if we're battling for a title, things might change. So look, I'm all about second chances. Paul Pogba, let's clean slate. He comes back, we make top 4. Let's on to the next one. Pay him. I mean, he is he's probably the best player on the team, right? You could say the most internationally desired player we have, and having him still be on our team can't hurt as long as he wants to play and play well, which I think he wants to do.
Can't wait to see even if it's only for the end of this season, I can't wait to see Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, Rashford and Martial on the same side. That's like, just show me that, baby. Can't wait for that.
We're gonna do an over/under, like we got tweeted out. We're gonna do over/under games and goals stake bet. We'll find another stake bet. Let's quarantine here.
Let's get a concrete, sir, you can send me a steak
next season.
You can send me a steak from like one of the high end steak consortiums who are still selling steaks for delivery. So there's always an opportunity. Sir,
I gotta be there. I gotta enjoy it with you. We'll do it when coronavirus.
You still owe me one. You still owe me one. Well, we got to see when the games are and if there are going to be games. But it'd be great to take a bet about how many Pogba gets between now and the end of the season.
No, I was thinking next year.
Okay.
Let's do a total next year goals. Like I famously won that Memphis Depay bet where you thought he was going to score 15 goals?
10. Even 10 was too far for him.
So we could go all day. Next bit of news. Barcelona, if you haven't seen it today, they accidentally leaked the design for Manchester United's 2020-21 kit. They uploaded an image of the new strip to their YouTube account before hastily deleting it. Barcelona trolling Manchester United. It looks like it's that kit with the yellow and black.
The dots. It's like the Belgium. It's like the Belgium ripoff kit. It's shit.
It could be worse.
Could be worse.
The thing about the home kit,
you haven't seen the third kit yet. Have you seen the third kit? The third kit is like a train wreck.
I ain't buying anything, right? So the one thing I will say is that I'm not a big Chevrolet guy. I'm not a big Adidas guy. But like whoever designs these kits is just like out to lunch, dude. Honestly, like it's just like the home kit should just be red.
Yeah,
just red with the logo. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then the away kit, you can get a little creative. I don't mind the green one, but the zebra, just like
brutal.
What are
the
you
green's
smoking?
cool. The green's kind of cool. The zebra one's a disaster class. It's just a mess. It's a mess from top to bottom. But hey, what are you gonna do?
I'm a classic hit guy.
I think it's our last Chevy year. I think after this year, it's renewed. We're stuck with Adidas till 2024, but Chevy should be off the front of the shirt soon.
Are you sure? No. Yeah, that's next season's last for Chevrolet.
And then we still got like 3 or 4
because the guy who did the deal got fired. Hayer is probably coming in as our next shirt sponsor, which I don't mind. And then we got to be Nike. We got to
win. We got to go back to winning. I think that'll help.
It's actually good. It's actually good for Adidas to be the kit maker because I don't spend as much money as I would. On Nike gear, but I'm reserved. I love the training pants, the Nike training pants. I literally have a Barcelona Vapor Knit training pants and Atletico Madrid because I can't stand those Adidas. I'm a Nike guy, so I'm an American. I like Nike. It's American Red Devils.
There you go.
So not the German Red Devils.
Next bit of news.
Saudis to purchase Newcastle with investor consortium. This is huge news. I would say the biggest bit of news. Sort of in this coronavirus lull, the Sports Direct tycoon, obviously everyone knows Ashley. Everyone hates him, the owner of Newcastle. And Newcastle, they're not doing too terribly. They beat us when we went up there. We went up north. And apparently Amanda Stavely, PCP Capital, they're doing a £300 million deal. And the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will be sort of the backer. And this deal would make Newcastle the richest club in the English Premier League. I want to say if you look at the amount of billions of dollars behind City, they would be number 2 with 20, and then the Saudis have 230 billion. So Newcastle, I mean, just hashtag upgrade. I mean,
upgrade in some regards. This tells me a couple things. It tells me that I don't think the Saudis have as much money as you think, because if they did, they would buy Manchester United and not Newcastle for $300 million. Probably the better deal dollar for dollar because they can turn the upside. And United has
exactly. You buy them for 300, you invest $1 billion,
you sell them for $3.
Worth
multiple billion in theory.
Yeah.
They're going to be a force to reckon with, but oil prices have been super down, so that's not going to help them out. But they're going to be a threat. I'm sure they're going to be looking to spend big money, and now will be a great opportunity. If you had a bunch of cash this summer, like there's going to be so many desperate clubs that are going to have to sell players in order to survive. I think Ole said this about 3 weeks ago that you can exploit the market, and it's absolutely right. So Newcastle.
I don't like saying that though. It's like we're going to exploit the market in a pandemic. It's like, come on. I
shouldn't have said it, but it's true.
I didn't like that headline. I'm just like, all right, like is that what you're thinking about? I know you can say that behind closed doors, but
I like that. I mean, because it's like that's the winner.
Because I'm glad here because I was legitimately nervous that they would buy Manchester United. And look, as much as we hate the Glazers and we're Glazers out, the Glazers are bad because they're capitalists. They're not bad because of their human rights abuses. So, I'll tip my cap to Bonesaw FC Newcastle here.
Jesus.
that we're not in that camp because that would be hard for me, man. It's hard to separate those two things as a football fan. And again, it's similar. Like when you talk to those Chelsea fans, they're kind of embarrassed talking about Abramovich.
They won't talk about it.
They really won't.
They won't talk about it. They'll gloss over it
on their own podcast. And it's kind of one of those things where like, the way we are. We're from New Jersey. We talk about pretty much everything. And so yeah, Bonesaw FC, son. Newcastle is a great brand. It's like old school English club. And the way I look at it is like Manchester United, we're already rich. Right. Like we're doing well. We're worth a couple billion. We make 600 million in revenue a year. I mean, we're killing it. Like we don't need like an oil tycoon to come in. Newcastle does. And that just means more competition. I think a better EPL. I love it, dude. There's more clubs that are going to compete now. Bring more money into the league. Best league in the world. I mean, like
I think the strength's going to be all in the north.
With Fergie, like, hey.
I know they used to be like I was watching an old Newcastle game, and I'm just watching Wayne Rooney bang him in. He used to love scoring against Newcastle, but all the might could be stuck in the north. I think United is on the resurgence. We're starting to invest money well, and a lot of the things the club has done, especially during the pandemic, they've gotten spot on. Like PR wise, they are nailing it. Which is probably part of their intention. But anyway, so what is next, or what's the next bit of news? Man United is going to be handed a boost because Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford are ready to resume training as soon as we have games again.
That's absolutely huge. Sorry, can't wait to see those two on the pitch, especially the news of Paul Pogba's contract upgrade is true, and he's finally getting back in his footballing ways. Next article, Atletico Madrid, they're in financial trouble. Speaking of their training pants, sir. Apparently, we're looking at Saul. I rate him as a midfielder, but if Paul Pogba is going to re-sign, I don't think we're going to get Saul Niguez from Atletico Madrid. Apparently, Paul Pogba's new contract, we're still in for Jude Bellingham. So you add Paul Pogba, Matic, McTominay, Fred, Bellingham. I mean, now we go from a weak midfield, not a lot of depth, to tons of depth in the middle of the park. I have to think Niguez would be not part of that deal, unless the Bellingham decided to go to Dortmund, not come to United.
No, I don't think that's going to be dependent. Saul's only going to come in, I think, if you get rid of Paul Pogba.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't see that happening. It's becoming a strength, and that's kind of leads maybe a little bit of credibility. This is one of those names that hasn't gone away. The next bit of news that actually United, maybe they will buy a center back. I'm not sure it's this one, but Manchester United leading the race to sign Kalidou Koulibaly. A player that we've often been attached to, someone that we didn't follow up when we were going in for center back versus Maguire because of the price. Now Napoli continues to whittle down what they're willing to accept. I think the latest was now like 70 million, where it was 125, and it's just been whittling down. But I don't see it happening. I think he's turning 29 this year. He's a great defender, one of the best in the world. But United have other priorities, and I just don't see them splashing big cash for a defender that old. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I don't like it either, especially when what I like to see in a defense pairing is like you need the unit, right? But then you also need, someone who's a little more good, someone who's like good on the ball. You can go Vidic and Ferdinand, right? Ferdinand was like better on the ball. Vidic was more like the unit. Maybe not physically, but he played like he was 10 feet tall, right?
Right.
We have Maguire. He's the unit. Maguire, Koulibaly next to each other. It seems to me that's too many units out there. So we need some speed. Lindelof should be the man. Pick a pass, play the ball. I do like that kind of balance in a center back pairing.
Baye's our destroyer.
Too much.
If you get
Bailly should be there, but he's injured all the time.
All the time. So they just re-signed him to another 2-year deal. If he could stay fit, he's your guy. I mean, he's the guy I would rather have starting next to Harry Maguire. I think he's better than Lindelof, just because he's a destroyer. He's like an absolute monster. And that's why he always gets hurt, because he throws his body into ridiculous scenarios and ends up breaking because of it. If cash was no issue, I was be all about Koulibaly. You know, it's like he'll be a mainstay for 3 years. Maybe you can win a title or two. He would take you to the next level.
I would just prefer to get rid of Jones, keep Smalling.
Smalling's really older, though. He's already 30.
Smalling Maguire would be the best. That's our best center back pairing right there. Smalling Maguire.
I'm not sure I agree. Lindelof's better than Smalling.
Dude, I mean, look, I like Lindelof, but if you look at how well Smalling's played at Roma, I mean, I don't think Lindelof's hit those heights. You know, I mean, if you look at the season that Smalling's had, he got the key to the city. Lindelof, I mean, you know, he has good games. He's played very well, but he's never had a complete season like that. I just think, you know, Lindelof should be the guy. Is he the guy? I think there's still a question mark there. I don't think you can say he is completely the guy, 100%.
No.
He has shown us flashes of it, but never like a consistent season, like locked down, like him and Maguire. Like Maguire is the guy. He's like playing injured, no matter what, at the back, doing a job, like captain of the team, like 100%. We just don't have that second one. Is it Lindelof? We don't know. That's kind of why I think, especially we'll probably get rid of Phil Jones. We're going to be in for another center back next year.
Yeah, I mean, the one out of RB Leipzig is another one. We put an article about Dayot. He's a top player, but he's young. Not really the finished article. I see United, if they go for a center back, they're going to go young. You know, I think they already bought the finished article in Harry Maguire. Bang on starter. But like you said,
Swanzabi?
He's
Swanzabi getting it?
He's been injured. You know, he had a big injury this year. They rate him very highly. Very highly. Insiders at Manchester United think he's a born leader, natural talent, obviously been with the club as an academy lad for a long time. So they have high hopes with him. So him and Bailly, and then you have Lindelof as a starter. It's like, do you need another signing? Maybe you get another young guy. But Koulibaly with the finished article, I just don't see that happening, because it's going to be big money. Unless like Napoli's completely desperate. I just don't see it.
Sir, it's been a hell of a pod. Absolutely love it. Classic match rewatch, the coronavirus update, going through the news. I mean, lots of news going on despite the pandemic. So we'll keep you posted. Check out the blog, www.americanreddevils.com. If you want to support us, click on store. We have some cool merch. If you don't want to part with some cash, I know times are tough for everyone out there. Drop a review on iTunes, share on social media. We do it for love of the game, for fans, by fans. We're doing a lot of website improvements right now. We're trying to get ready for when football comes back, hopefully in June, sir. Can't wait.
Can't wait, sir. I'm my wife is 38 weeks pregnant today. You know, thankfully there probably won't be any football to talk about other than replays, because by the time we get through that, maybe football will be back. We'll be ready to go.
I have a feeling by next pod you're gonna have a kid, sir. You know?
Yeah, that's the bet. By next pod, by next Sunday.
Now that I have a kid.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening.
Sir, it's a big change. Sir, you want to give us our top downloads last 7 days?
You got it. You want me to do the whole list?
Whole list.
Happy to do it. Another great week of downloads. We appreciate everybody that's been listening in during these times without football. But American Red Devil fans are the finest in the world, just like the fans of this club, Manchester United, the greatest club in all the land. We got some top downloads. Number 1, how you doing? Springfield Gardens, New York. Number 2, Lakewood, Ohio. Number 3, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. How you doing? Sheboygan, yeah, unbelievable stuff. Dallas, Texas. Number 4, Seoul, Korea. Number 5, Tracy, California. Number 6, Buffalo, New York. San Diego, California. Florence, South Carolina. And last but not least, Riverdale, Georgia. Thank you for all the downloads. Thank you for listening. We appreciate all of our fans and hope everybody's staying safe, taking care of their family, and doing what they need to do to survive this trying period.
Sir, 11 games unbeaten. How goes it feel?
Always at the wheel.